You've been searching for the best way to generate passive income in your life and heard that real estate is a great way to do it. But you're tired of all the so-called gurus who are all talk and no substance. Get ready to celebrate because Kevin Buck has spent 14 years successfully making it happen. This is the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. Now, here's Kevin Buck.
Hey guys, Kevin Bupp here with the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast, where our mission is to help you build and maintain massive amounts of cash flow through income-producing real estate investments. And our guest for this week's show is commercial real estate investor and CPA, Mike Dymski. Now, Mike is a CPA by trade, and he works full-time in his career while building wealth through real estate investing on the side. He's invested in apartment buildings, single-family homes, as well as multiple commercial private placement deals. And in today's show, we're going to be talking with Mike about a multitude of topics, including how he finds balance in managing a family of 5 while simultaneously working full-time as a CPA and managing his many real estate investments. We're going to speak about his experience with a recent acquisition of a value-add 29-unit apartment complex. We're also going to speak about his involvement as a passive investor in various other commercial investments and much, much more. But before we get on to the show with Mike, I'd like to briefly run through a quick updates with you guys. If you haven't heard already, my partner, Charles Dehart, and myself, we are writing a book on mobile home park investing, and we expect it to be completed in the very near future, probably in the next couple of months. And as a gift to you, and prior to putting it up for sale on Amazon, we like to offer you a copy of it absolutely free, okay? This will be the most comprehensive book available on the topic of mobile home park investing. And to get on our VIP wait list, just text the word Kevin, my name, Kevin, to 41411. Again, text Kevin to 41411, and you'll be one of the first to receive an absolutely free copy of the book once it's completed. And guys, if you listen to the show, if you're a regular listener, then you probably already are aware that I'm a full-time real estate investor. This isn't just a hobby for me. I've been doing it now for 18 years. I'm 38 today. Bought my first property when I was 20 and literally have not had a real job since, so I'm kind of proud of that. But today, and basically for the past 5 years, I've been specializing in mobile home parks. And I tell you this because my team and I were seeking accredited investors who are interested in partnership opportunities. If you have an interest, you can get more information about our company, and you can also download our investment prospectus by going to sunrisecapitalinvestors.com. Again, sunrisecapitalinvestors.com, or you can just give us a call, 888-260-9455. And lastly, guys, if you happen to be in the Tampa Bay area, I am based in Clearwater, Florida. I'd love to meet you. I love meeting others that share the same passion as I do about real estate investing. If you have some extra time, shoot me an email, kevin@kevinbuck.com. That's my personal email address. Let me know when you're coming into town and when you might have some free time, and let's see if we can get our schedules to coordinate with one another, okay? And guys, now without further ado, I'd like to welcome Mike Dymski to the show. Mike, you there?
Yes, sir. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Mike. How you doing, bud? I really appreciate you coming on the show with us today. Looking forward to chatting with you. And just to give our listeners a sense of geography, where are we calling you at today? Where are you based out of?
Sure. I'm in Greenville, South Carolina, which is about midway between Atlanta and Charlotte on the I-85 corridor.
Yep, I know Greenville quite well. In fact, I am flying into Greenville in a week and a half. We got a property and contract in Columbia, South Carolina, and I never knew how difficult it was to fly from Tampa, Florida to Columbia, South Carolina. But about the only reasonable way to get there is by going to Greenville first. So I know Greenville quite well. That's a great market.
Yeah, it's easy to get it. Yeah, it's easy to get in and out of Greenville, but unfortunately you have to have a layover everywhere you go. But I mean, it's just a beautiful part of the country. The whole I-85 corridor, all the way between Atlanta and Raleigh, I wouldn't use the word booming. But it's just had steady growth over the last, probably 10 or 15 years, and that'll likely continue going forward. It's just, reasonable cost of living and, fairly affordable, good climate, and just a good place to raise a family.
Yeah, no, it's a great market. I'd love to actually own a mobile home park in the Greenville-Spartanburg area. Just haven't found the right one yet. So, Mike, just for those that don't know anything about you, don't know your background, I mean, I gave a little bit of an introduction for you, but I probably didn't do you justice. So maybe take a few minutes and give our listeners a little bit more of information about yourself.
Sure. And Kevin, it's an honor to be on your show. Over the weekend, I was listening to a couple of your podcasts to get prepared and just remind myself of, how the interviews work. And, Rock Cleef was on recently. You had a guy from, Family Office who's investing billions of dollars, and another guy had thousands of units. And so I'm like, I was wondering if your assistant kind of screwed up and got me mixed up with someone else. So it's an honor to be on the show, and I guess today I'm carrying the torch for all of the part-time investors who kind of do this off the corner of their desk to help support their family and make a better financial future for them. So anyway, like you mentioned, I'm married. I've got a family of 5. I'm a CPA and the chief accounting officer for a financial services organization. And I started investing in real estate probably back in 2004, 2005, 2006 time frame. Back then I was just looking for a primary residence. I was a renter for 10 years prior to that, and ended up buying a primary residence that was a fixer-upper in the downtown area of our market. And I just recognized the opportunity to buy some other properties in the area because I felt like the downtown area would appreciate over time, and ended up buying a single-family home to flip, just a few months after that. And over the course of, since then, I've, flipped a number of homes and accumulated 34, buy and hold rental units. 29 of those are a small apartment complex. 4 units are 2 duplexes that sit on the same lot. And then I still have that same single-family home that I bought as a primary residence back then. It's now a rental property.
Got it. Okay, fantastic. And talk to me about the transition from the single families to, you kind of worked your way up into multifamily, and then, a lot of the passive investments you have are in commercial. So, I mean, was it just more of a comfort zone thing of buying that single family first before moving up into larger types of investments?
Well, I just didn't know any better back then. I didn't have exposure to it. There wasn't as much education material available back then. That was 15 years ago. Now the internet and the books are better out there, so it's a bit easier to get educated. You and I likely had to go through a little bit of a school of hard knocks on our own, and just went through deal execution to kind of learn things the tough way. And so, I was doing flipping homes, and I was doing the single family thing for a while, and just didn't know any better. So I've gone through a bit of a rebirth, if you will, on real estate over the past couple of years. The last house I flipped was at the end of 2015, and it was a big project. I mean, this was a 5-bedroom, 4-bath house. It was a complete gut job, and including all the mechanicals. And so it was a couple $100,000 renovation by itself. It was in a higher end historic neighborhood, and it was a lot of work, and I made a lot of mistakes doing it, and it was just, for me, it was just too much work. And I said, hey, I've got to find a better way to do this. And in addition, I had some capital. I'm like, well, I can keep going out and try to accumulate single family units, and to try to acquire, 29 single family units would have taken me a lifetime with having a full-time job. And so I could get more scale and get some of the returns I'm looking for in a larger apartment complex. So I started just getting exposure to the commercial space after that. Mm-hmm.
Now, you bring up a good point there. You said acquiring 29 single-family units would have taken you basically a lifetime going at it part-time, versus just buying one 29-unit apartment complex. And I think that's so important for those that are listening into the show that might just be getting their start, that are looking at flipping a home or buying a single-family rental. Maybe it's even a turnkey rental, depending on where you're at in your business and what you've been exposed to thus far. But, really, I don't like saying that it doesn't take any more work to buy a 29 unit than it does a single family home, but it's not much more. It's not a lot. I mean, it's really, you go through the same motions. Now, obviously, there's going to be more capital that's required, but I mean, you were talking about like renovating homes. That is a big project. Taking on renovation, like fix and flips, or even if you're fixing and just keeping as a long-term rental, that is a big project in itself. And, I think that a lot of people they underestimate their ability to buy something bigger. And I think that's just an important lesson. I wish I'd have learned it earlier on. I mean, I got into my comfort zone when I got into this business back when I was 20, only because my mentor at the time, that's what he did. He literally bought single-family homes. He had some small multis, but most of the stuff he bought was single-family homes and kept them as rentals. And then I did realize a short few years later that multifamily was kind of the way to go, right? Same amount of work, but you can kind of multiply your efforts fairly easy. And anyway, I want to make sure that people understood what you just said there, because I think it's a very, very important point to take home. Now, talk to me a little bit about you had mentioned that the lack of education that back when you first got started, like there wasn't a lot of great books out in the marketplace. There was basically like 3-day boot camps. It's pretty much like all you could really go to learn this business, right? And so were there other things that you did in order to get educated? I mean, did you go to local investment clubs? And did you ever have a partner that you took on that had more experience than yourself? Or did you just kind of go at it just half-cocked and say, hey, I'm going to figure this out one way or another?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So I've never had a mentor. I've actually never been to a RIA meeting, and apparently we've got a pretty strong RIA in our area. And unfortunately, I'm just very focused on what I prioritize on. I wish I was better networked, and I'm doing a better job of it now. But I am just so focused on what I spend my time on that I have very little excess time for real estate investing, and so I spend it on deal execution. So if I'm attending RIA meetings, or if I'm reading books, or if I'm taking classes, then I'm either doing that or I'm doing deal execution. So unfortunately, I need the deal execution. And what's blessed me a little bit is this 29-unit complex has allowed me to spend a little bit of time kind of re-energizing myself and getting educated. I'll also add a little bit to what you mentioned earlier about, I don't know if you use the word efficiency or not, but to provide some context for me personally, that last home I flipped was a big exercise. I mean, it was capital intensive, it was labor intensive, took all of my time, pulled me away from my family. On this 29-unit complex, we're essentially flipping units, not per se in the sense of actually selling the complex, but as each unit turns over and as we raise rents, we're essentially doing a mini flip. The big difference is, though, it's only costing me $3,000 per unit in rehab instead of $200,000.
Yeah.
And on top of it, it only takes 2 weeks to get done, and the management company is managing it instead of me. And as each unit turns over, the value of the property goes up by X dollars based on the rental increase. So it's just night and day process of quote unquote, flipping a unit. And that being said, there's all kinds of strategies for making money in real estate, and single family and small multifamily, large multifamily. They're all very viable options. And the key is just to pick something that fits what your market bears, what your goals are, and what works best for me. And what works best for me is the most units in a single property that I can put on the books.
There's another important point that you forgot to mention about the difference of flipping one of those apartment units as it comes available, as the lease runs out, versus doing a big $200,000 rehab project. Is with the apartment building, you still maintain cash flow. You got that one empty unit that you're flipping, and you're still putting hopefully positive profits in your pocket. With the single family flip, it's capital intensive. You're throwing cash out the door faster than you can even count it, and the reward doesn't really come in until the end, until you actually exit out of that property and sell it. So it's a completely different feeling when you've actually got positive cash flow coming in while you're doing a renovation. It's a good feeling. I like the feeling. I don't know about you, but I like it.
Oh yeah, it's a big difference, and especially if you set up your financing properly up front, where you roll the rehab into the loan, or you've got a line of credit available to cover the rehab. You can cash flow as a normal operating unit and have the rehab roll directly into the loan. Mm-hmm.
Yep, absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about a work-life balance, because we're talking about rehab, we're talking about how time-intensive they are, single-family home, from a single-family home perspective, but even doing what you do. I mean, you're a CPA. I mean, you're a chief accounting officer for a company, and I mean, so I'm assuming you work at least 40 hours a week. We all have the same amount of hours in a day. You've got a full-time job. You've got multiple real estate investments that you currently own. You're involved in rehab projects, but on top of that, you've got a wife and 5 children. Now, I've got a wife and 2 children, and I know how time-consuming that is. And I love every minute that I get to spend with my kids, and I try not to have any projects pull me away from them, because I value every moment I get with them. And it sounds like you're very much the same way. How do you find, what are some secrets that you've found that have worked for you to find that work-life balance? Because, again, you literally, your family's 2.5 times the size of mine, and I struggle with it. So talk to me about that a little bit, if you would.
Yeah, and in the end, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I'm definitely not the poster child for work-life balance, and there's really no such thing as balance in my life. My schedule is absolutely nuts. I've got 5 kids. One of them is out of the house, so he's 27 years old. He's moved out, so we still have 4 in the house, 3 that are college age. And then we've got a 3-year-old as well, so he certainly keeps us young. But in the end, it's about setting priorities. So I don't watch TV, I don't listen to the radio, and I live according to my to-do list that are the most impactful things. And frankly, most of my life is spent in working on the things that have the most impactful priorities, and then managing the stuff that I just don't get done. I can't focus on some of the things that are not the most important items, even though they probably could get done a lot better. Certainly, like in the real estate investing side of things, I try to kind of pick my battles with the management company, focused on what's important, and keep the big picture. On the family side, the kids all grew up playing travel sports, and so there'd be some weekends where my wife would be. We live in South Carolina. My wife would be in Georgia with one of our kids. I would be up in North Carolina with one of the others, and we just make it happen. And in the end, the travel sports sometimes can be challenging, but we spend a lot of time with our kids. So literally, we leave on a Friday afternoon or evening, and we're with them the whole weekend. We're with them in the car the whole time, and so we get a lot of time with them then. And so we try to make the most of it while we're together, and then I make the most of my time when I'm working on the real estate or working at my job. And my job is a 60-plus hour a week job every week.
Wow.
Year in and year out. So, it's not a pretty crazy schedule, but you just try to set priorities.
So is your end goal with your real estate investments, is there a certain point in time where you hope that you'll be able to maybe retire early from being a CPA because of your real estate investments, or do you not really have an interest in doing that?
So when I originally started investing, I was single until 2011. So I guess that's a key part of the story as well. 4 of those kids are my stepchildren that I married into, and I guess it was in 2011, so about 6 years ago. And I took financial responsibility for them. Their father had passed away years earlier, and so that was a bit of a game changer for me. And prior to that, my real estate investing was more supplemental income. It was what I felt lower risk, higher return than some of other asset classes. And over time, that would help build my balance sheet and possibly provide an early retirement. Well, in 2011, things changed. So, I've been reading these books lately, and people talk about finding your why. It's this, really funny phrase, finding your why. What the heck does that mean? And that must be written in a book somewhere. But obviously it's about determining what your innermost goals are and finding that so it drives you to passionately achieve them each day and gives you motivation. Well, I don't need to find my why anymore. My why finds me. The credit card bill, I don't need to go looking for it. The credit card bill is going to find me. The insurance on 5 cars is going to find me. And so right now, the tuition bills, I've got 3 kids in college. And so in the end, the real estate is helping to, support my family and to cover those bills. But it's also going to be there when the kids graduate and move on. And ultimately that cash flow and that value is still going to remain there. And it should provide the opportunity for me to potentially early retire at some point. So yeah, that's definitely in the cards and definitely in the goals. And Kevin, it's I'm so close. I'm in the market for a 75 to 200 unit apartment. If I can take down probably 100 of those units with my own capital, if I'm in the 200 unit range, I probably will work with a joint venture partner that I've established a relationship with. But in the end, if I'm able to put a 100 unit apartment complex under my belt, reposition that and get it cash flowing how I expect it to cash flow, it can be a game changer for me and create some opportunities to really achieve some of my life goals, and I get fired up just thinking about it.
Yeah, really. I mean, that's a great point, because it really only takes one really solid property of that size. I mean, if you can be, one of the primary, capital sources of that deal, and it could just, that's why I tell even the mobile home park space, like we have some of our smaller parks that we own. We've got a couple 50 space parks, actually two, different markets, completely different markets, different deals entirely. But both of those could literally be a life changer for the average person. Just like literally someone that had a 150 grand laying around could have gotten into either one of those deals. And each one of those has got just ridiculous cash on cash returns, and they're solid operators. I mean, literally close to 6-figure a year net cash flow after expenses and debt service. And, it's just same with the apartment space. You buy the right property, the right deal, it could literally change your entire life. And it's possible. It's all possible. And you don't have to have all the money yourself to do it. That's the great part. And I want to talk to you about that a little bit, Mike, here in a few minutes, because you kind of play that role a little bit for other sponsors as well, sponsors that might not have all the liquidity themselves to do a deal. You are a financial, I guess, loan guarantee or loan sponsor on deals to where they don't have the liquidity to handle it themselves. And so I don't want to go down that road yet, but I definitely want to talk about it. Before we get there, I do want to chat a little bit about this 29-unit deal that you own today, this value-add apartment complex. I want to talk just about a few of the particulars on the deal itself. More so, what was the opportunity that you saw there? I mean, can you speak a little bit to price per unit? What was the value add component, and then is it hitting all your financial targets that you were trying to achieve?
Sure. So the owner of this was a complex that was built in 1990 by the person who was selling it to me. So he owned the complex for the better part of 25 years. He had built it and managed it successfully through a number of business cycles. And he was retiring and liquidating his portfolio. And so I paid around $1.1 million for the apartment complex, so right around $37,000 per door, and the in-place rents were right at averaged around $500 per door. And, the apartment complex was stable. When I purchased it, it only had one vacancy, so I could have continued to operate it as is, but when I was looking at the property and going through my due diligence, it was dated. So it had never been updated. It had the original wallpaper on there from 1990, the original light fixtures, complete whitewash, interior paint scheme, carpeting throughout. And so it was just a dated look. And it had the tenant class that kind of went along with that and the rental rates that went along with it. And so the area is doing pretty well. And so what I'm going in and doing is putting a two-tone paint scheme in. It sounds pretty simple, but when you move from a whitewash to a semi-gloss paint on the trim and a modern, gray tan look on the walls, it makes a pretty big difference. And you go in and put in new vinyl flooring. These vinyl flooring products are excellent and they're very affordable. So we're putting in vinyl on the first floor and in the bathrooms, and the second floor we're just putting regular carpet on those as well. Replacing the light fixtures. Light fixtures are fairly affordable and make a pretty big difference. Taking down the wallpaper, and in the end we're just kind of providing a modern, affordable, contemporary, clean, safe apartment complex for the residents that live there. And so go ahead, Kevin.
I was going to ask you about the vinyl flooring product. Is it the vinyl plank flooring? Is that what you're referring to?
So I vetted vinyl plank and sheet vinyl, and I ended up going with sheet vinyl for this particular complex. I'm using a 10-year guarantee sheet vinyl rather than 5 years, so it's rather thick. And the flooring vendor that I'm working with talked me into that over the planks. It holds up pretty well and can actually be repaired a lot easier than what most people realize. These vinyl flooring, they look like real hardwood floors. The residents actually, a lot of them can't tell the difference. And so if you ever have a replacement or any of them need scratched, you can actually heat up the floor and you can cut out the piece that's missing and replace it in there. But anyway, it's not quite as durable as the plank product, but it's it's fitting for this complex, and it certainly holds up a lot better than carpeting.
What's the cost per square foot of that? I know we're paying about $1.60, I think, a square foot for that vinyl plank flooring. And we've been using that for a couple of years now, but I'd be interested to see what the price difference is and go down this road and see if it might be an option for us.
Yeah, I'm paying $1.20 a square foot installed.
Okay.
And then you'd obviously have the shoe molding on top of that as well. But yeah, it's a little more affordable. And frankly, like I only have a 29-unit complex. There's probably others that are paying a lot less than that have a little bit more buying power than what I do. And frankly, like some of the A-class new construction apartments are putting in the sheet vinyl in my market as well. So it's very, very fitting.
Interesting.
Looks great.
Yeah, no, and I want to make sure that the listeners understand, like, we're talking about this now because, I mean, this is a very cost-effective flooring product that looks great. Again, I've never seen the sheet vinyl that Mike specifically uses, but we use a vinyl plank flooring that is very easy to put in. It looks just like, I mean, to the normal person they're not a hardwood floor connoisseur, they're going to think that it's some type of laminate flooring. And the great part is, at least with the vinyl plank, which I'm assuming is the same with the sheet vinyl, this stuff's pretty much waterproof as well. You know, if you have a slab floor, concrete floor, and you've got a pipe burst or a leak or anything, I mean, it's just a matter of squeegeeing this stuff out. You just get the squeegee out and get the water out of the unit, and you're good to go. You got it. I mean, the product's great. We're putting it in kitchens and bathrooms. It's going through the entire first floor. So, I mean, it's you hit the nail on the head. And on top of it, we're working with a multifamily flooring specialist. You know, so these guys, that's all they do is apartment complexes. They're very professional. They're very efficient. They've got regional buying power, and they pass that on to a lot of their clients. And then the management company loves dealing with them. You know, so there's somebody there that always answers the phone. They're professional. They have professional billing, and the best part about it is, get this, you know, they work with probably 4 or 5 subcontractor crews, and so the subcontractors love it. It's a win for them. It's a win for the vendor, and it's a win for us. The subcontractors love it because they have a gravy train of work that's fed to them. Mm-hmm. But the important part, though, is it's a great business model because the subcontractors all know that there's 3 or 4 other subs that work for this vendor. So they have to show up every day, they have to provide an affordable price, and they have to do good work. Otherwise, that vendor is going to send the work to one of the other subcontractors. Mm-hmm. And so it's just a very effective model. And you hear a lot about efficiency in multifamily and apartments and mobile home parks, and this is where a lot of the efficiency comes into play, is the use of vendor specialists that specialize in the place versus trying to work with just individual subcontractors that you get kind of on the retail side of things. Right. Okay. And so what's your long-term strategy on this property? I mean, is this just a, renovate and hold for long-term cash flow? Is that the plan?
Yeah, so that was the plan. And I plan on either refinancing it or cross-collateralizing it with a line of credit that I've got in process to be able to pull the value add out of it and roll it into the larger apartment complex that I mentioned. Fortunately, we're actually getting rent bumps that are higher than what I had modeled into my pro forma. I had some dreams of what we could get out of the property. We're moving rents up $150 a month per unit, which is a pretty substantial increase. You can do the math on that and determine what the value increase is. And that just creates a lot of dry powder and equity to be able to access that equity and roll it into another property.
Yep. No, absolutely. Well, that sounds great. It sounds like it's going better than planned, which is always a good thing, right? So I want to talk real quick about what you're doing today to find opportunities. Like you got your eyes set on this larger property, 75, 100 units, or even larger than that. And now I don't know if you have something that you're currently working on, or maybe there's some other ones that you're kind of teeing up. But I mean, what have you done proactively to seek out these larger deals?
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what kind of competition I'm going to run into. When I bought the current property that I have, it didn't take me very long to find it. Either I got lucky or I was just, fortunate. The 29-unit complex I bought was incidentally the first one that I looked at. I looked at some others after that, and I analyzed a lot of deals prior to looking at that one. So I was very particular about which ones that I went to pay a visit. And when I went to visit the property, I was very decisive and and made an offer on the spot. So it wasn't too hard to find, but it's going to be a different animal looking for something in the 75 to 200 unit space. It's going to be a lot more active market and a lot more competitive. So I don't know what I'm going to run into in that space. But what I've done is I've prepared a business plan or financing package, if you will, that shows my criteria. It shows my resume and my track record. It's got my schedule of real estate owned on it. And it also has all of the vendors that I'm working with through flooring vendors, painting vendors, brokers, mortgage brokers as well too. And so I'm establishing, my track record and my credibility through association with some of those. And I'm providing the brokers that have most of the deal flow in my market that package, and kind of reintroducing myself to them and walking them through what I'm doing and what my criteria is to try to get on their short list for their deal flow. So I'm on all of their email blasts, but I also want to get on some of the off-market deals, and I just have to find ways to convince them that I'm a closer and that I'm an active buyer and I have the capital available to get a deal done, to be able to with the professional investors and the other syndicators that are in my market, both live here locally and some of the folks that are investing from California and New York and other coastal areas that are kind of looking for yield in my market.
Yeah, no, you bring up a great point about, some people call that a credibility book, a pitch book, whatever label you want to give it, but that's exactly what it is. That's so vitally important for everyone. I mean, you need to put that together for yourself, and it's going to make your life so much easier when you're trying to build relationships with brokers or, lenders. I mean, both sides of the equation. It helps you establish that relationship so much quicker if you've got that in place, and you can send that off to them. Like, for instance, every time we send out a loan request package with property information, we also send this, again, call it a credibility book, call it a pitch book, call it whatever you want to call it. We send that along with it. That way they can quickly flip through it and get an idea of who the heck we are. If we've never dealt with them before, they can very quickly, in 5 minutes, figure out who we are, what we've done, what we own, what markets we like, and why they should actually waste any time working with us and trying to track down a lender that might fit our deal. So very important that you're going to basically shave off a lot of time and energy if you put that together now and proactively have it in place when the time comes for you to start establishing those relationships out in the marketplace. So I want to talk a little bit, Mike, about your involvement as a passive investor now. So the other side of the equation here, you are passively involved in multiple different syndications, and you also act as a loan sponsor for operators who are lacking, liquidity reserves needed by most CMBS and agency lenders. So can you talk to a little bit about that side of your business and how you got involved in being a passive investor and also a loan sponsor?
Sure. So on the passive investing side, I got exposed to some investments with a developer out of Charlotte who builds new construction Family Dollar stores, and they raise capital to do that from private investors. And I just had a friend of mine who is a high net worth individual, owns their own business, and he has a lot of passive real estate investment opportunities. So he's been introducing me to some developers and sponsors who are raising capital, and so that's how I got access to that particular developer. And so I think we have 4 or 5 individual unit investments in Family Dollars stores across the country, and we do that through my self-directed IRA and my wife's self-directed IRA. And we've helped fund the new construction period, and after around the 18-month period when the Family Dollar sells to the ultimate investor, we get taken out of the deal. We get a preferred return of 8% along the way, and then we participate in the proceeds from the sale. We've only had a couple of closed. The first 2 that closed, we did really well. We actually had a 22% and a 20% IRR on both of those deals. I don't anticipate that all of them are going to be in that range. Mm-hmm. The developer likes to commit to somewhere in the 15% range IRR to their investors, but that's the Family Dollar deals. And I'm in the process of vetting other sponsors right now and networking with a lot of apartment and mobile home park deal syndicators like yourself, Kevin, to decide where to redeploy that capital when some of those deals sell in 2017 and 2018.
Okay, got it. And so
and then on the loan.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and then on the loan sponsorship side, I don't currently sponsor any syndicators at this point, but I've been actively reaching out to syndicators that I'm networking with to potentially sponsor some of their deals. And I guess for the benefit of your listeners, Fannie and Freddie are obviously heavy lenders in the apartment space, and they have certain net worth and liquidity requirements for their general partnership group that are buying properties. They like to have a net worth greater than or equal to the loan balance, and liquidity either 10% of the loan or 9 months worth of debt service. One of those requirements is Fannie, one is Freddie. I can't remember which one's which, but I think you get the picture. And in the end, some syndicators, especially ones that are just getting started, don't necessarily have that net worth or liquidity. And they need to bridge the gap to the requirement, and so they bring on loan sponsors to sign on the loan with them to help bring their balance sheet and their liquidity to the deal to help qualify for the loan. And there's compensation for the loan sponsor to do that. So I am actively networking with syndicators to see if I can get into loan sponsorship opportunities.
Okay. What are some of the risks associated with that, you being a loan sponsor?
Well, there's a big time risk because you are jointly and severally liable for the entire loan balance. So, if you happen to be doing a multi-million-dollar loan and the syndicator does something fraudulent or, very, problematic, then you're on the hook for the loan. Now, I would only sponsor a non-recourse loan, and so non-recourse loans carry with them significantly less risk than a recourse loan would be because the lender on a non-recourse loan only has access to the property itself, but there are certain bad boy carve-outs where the loan can become recourse if the deal sponsor is fraudulent or grossly negligent, and that's where the risk comes into play. So as a loan sponsor, I'd be very particular about who I'd be willing to sign on with.
So you basically have to do a very thorough job of vetting that particular deal sponsor, right?
That's right, and frankly, I'm looking at this as a long-term game. So a lot of the folks that I'm reaching out to now, I may not be willing to sponsor the first contact with them, but if I establish a relationship and they establish credibility together and we find a good fit, we may find something a year or two or three down the road. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to switch gears a little bit now, Mike, and I'm going to ask you a question that hopefully doesn't catch you too off guard. And you probably know, you've listened to my show enough times now, you probably know it's coming. But if you can go back into year one, I think you said you bought your first investment, was it 2002 or 2004? I believe 2004.
Yeah, 2004, 2005 time frame.
So if you could go back in time to 2004, after knowing what you know today, and give yourself some advice, like back when you're first getting started, what would that advice be?
And I could go on for a while here. The biggest one would be, exactly. Go bigger, faster. So I just think there's, I think a lot of us investors need to get our foot in the door and maybe get a deal or two under our belt. But, once you get that initial learning curve out of the way, try to buy the biggest property that you can buy and do it as quickly as you can. And it just accelerates the learning curve and the pace and the efficiency. So go big and go faster would be my advice to myself. Yeah,
that's great advice. And, the great thing is we talked about the lack of information out there back in 2004, right? I mean, the times have changed so much over the past, 13 years. Obviously the internet was around back then, but podcasting, I don't think podcasting was around 2004. I think maybe that came out 2007, 2008 or something like that. It's been around for maybe 10 years. So you couldn't just open up your iPhone and basically download, 100 episodes about multifamily investing or commercial real estate investing, which you can now. And there's so many other books out there on the topic. There's tons of free information out there. So it's a lot easier today to get the information that's required when you're first getting started. So if you determine that you want to just dive in and do a bigger deal right out of the gate, there's plenty of information out there readily available, a lot of it free. Even let's talk about Bigger Pockets for a second. I want to plug that because I know, Mike, you're on Bigger Pockets. I don't know how much time you spend on there. I have a profile. I don't spend too much time on there, but with that being said, those that are just getting started, if you're out there and you're looking for specific advice on whether it's an asset class, a market to invest in, you're looking for potential investors, potential partners, potential deals, Bigger Pockets, I believe it is the largest community of real estate investors. I don't know how many members are on there now, but I mean, it's hundreds of thousands, I believe. And it's free. It's free to have a membership. That wasn't around back when you and I were first getting started, right?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. And, I'm intentionally active in the forums on Bigger Pockets to force myself to network. I don't have a lot of free time, so it's very efficient networking for me. I can do it, in my lunch break. I can do it, at nighttime after the kids go to bed. Mm-hmm. And it's created an open network and an information and education platform for me. And then I also learned a lot by posting. I know this sounds kind of silly, but like if you're actively posting on there and you're describing some of the things you do or that you've done, it ends up challenging myself. Some of the things I went to respond to, I'm like, you know what, that's actually not a very good process. I need to change it. Or if you're going to go out in a public forum and post something, it better be value add and it better be correct. Otherwise,
right.
People are going to call you to the carpet on it. So it's just been a good tool for me to both network and to kind of challenge some of the things that I'm doing as an investor. So I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So Mike, now we enter into what I like to call the golden nugget segment of the show. And we're going to kind of wrap things up for the day. And what one final golden nugget of advice or wisdom could you leave with our listeners today that may inspire and motivate them as they progress in their real estate investing career? And it could be anything you want it to be. It could be maybe your favorite motivational quote, some core principles you live by, or success habits. So there's no right or wrong answer here.
Okay. And, I'm probably not the best person to be providing advice to all the listeners, but...
Sure you are. You're out there doing it. You're in the trenches, man.
I think, I appreciate that, Kevin. And what I would recommend is just be a closer. So, there's just so many investors out there that are tire kickers, and the reason why they get the door closed in their face by brokers and other folks is they're just spending, a lot of their time, and they're just indecisive. So I would suggest, do your homework, do what you can on your own, analyze a bunch of deals, get your education in place, and then, once you've got that in place, when you go and look at something, just be decisive. Go to the property and know right away, hey, I like this one and I'm going to make an offer right away, or I don't like it and move on to the other one, and just be a closer.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. I mean, you can build either a good reputation or a bad reputation about the same speed, and you definitely don't want the bad reputation because it will haunt you and follow you around for a long time. So, and if you make a good point there, because I want to expand on a little bit, is that if you don't like a deal, if someone brings you a deal and you don't like it, be sure to be very thorough with telling them why you don't like it. Don't just say, no, that's not a good one for me. I mean, whether it's the mix, the bedroom, bathroom mix of the units, the size of it, maybe it's out of your price point, whatever it might be, maybe it's a part of town that it's in. I don't know. Maybe it's a roof style that's on it. I'm not sure, but make sure that you're very specific. If it's a broker that brought that to you, be very specific with them with why it doesn't fit your investment criteria. Because if you just walk away and say, no, that's not going to work, or if you don't respond to them at all, then I can promise you that they're going to stop sending you deals, or the ones that they send you are going to be the junk ones. They're not going to give you the cream of the crop. Would you agree with that, Mike?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, first and foremost, they'll just quit reaching out to you. And then secondly, the more that you respond to them, the more you establish a relationship with them, and the more they understand what your criteria is. It also forces you to make sure you know what your criteria is. So you've got to analyze the deal, and you've got to kind of make some kind of educated response that they can't shoot holes in. And so, it just establishes the relationship. And along the same lines, the last couple of weeks I've been working on my deal analyzer. I'm about to go to market for a property. So when properties come my direction, I want my deal analyzer to be really efficient and easy to fill in, kick out all the outputs that I want it to kick out, so that when something comes my direction, I can act quickly on it, because that's exactly what these guys want. I reintroduced myself to some brokers over the past 3 weeks and brought them my deal package, reintroduced myself, talked about criteria, and the biggest response that I got from most of them, I'm like, what do you want from me? Like, what do you need from me? And they're all telling me, I want LOIs and I want them quick. So that's my plan. I plan on analyzing stuff quickly, and if I'm going to move on something, I'll be decisive on it. And they can put an LOI in a seller's hands right off the bat, and that makes their job efficient, and it shows the seller that they're doing their job.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great advice. And Mike, for those that want to learn more about you or reach out to you, what's the best place to get you? Is it on Bigger Pockets?
Yeah, I'm very active on it, so feel free to shoot me a PM on Bigger Pockets, and happy to network and respond to folks. I enjoy it.
Okay. And then so Mike's last name is spelled Dymski, Mike Dymski. So you can find him at Bigger Pockets. And Mike, this has been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you coming on the show. It's been just very informative, your wealth of information, and I wish you the best success in all that you do, and we'll look forward to keeping in touch with you, my friend.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. Enjoyed it.
Congratulations! Now you've got more of the best tricks of the trade in building massive amounts of passive income from real estate. For more amazing resources, visit realestateinvestingforcashflow.com, and we'll see you next Monday morning.